I take it back. So can you hear me, Nan? I mean, Sherry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay.
So we'll
All
go
right.
back.
Welcome those attendees. I'm sorry, I'm the technology problem today. Welcome to the weekly Volunteer and Combination Officer section webinar series. I think today it's a different kind of topic. It's one of those topics that we don't really like to talk about, but John Tippett has been living it for the last several years, lived it for many years before that, but working with the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. So we're talking about when a firefighter dies beyond the dollars and cents. So a couple little political things to do here. Audio is being done over voice over IP. If you have problems, go to the chat session or the questions and answers, and we'll try to take care of your problem. Or you can email webinars@ifc.org. And so we do have some handouts and that questions and answers at the end. And I'll be monitoring the chat. So if you guys have questions, thoughts, or comments there. What's the VCOS is doing? Many of you have attended our webinars before. I'm not going to read that kind of stuff to you, but we're pretty active. We're currently they're actually having a meeting right now to discuss the new OSHA proposed rulemaking and how it's going to impact the career and volunteer and combination off of fire department. So there's some ideas of what it is that we're doing. We do these webinar series. We do ribbon reports. The big thing we do is Symposium in the Sun in November. And I sincerely hope that if you haven't been there yet, you want to come this year, but you better hurry up and register because it fills up and we sell out. So we don't have much of a chance there. What are some of the upcoming events? Again, these are all same kind of things we do every week. But next week, actually, that topic has changed from developing an in-service training program to about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So hopefully you will come and attend that. So our presenter today is John Tippett. I'm not sure how many years I have known him, but way back when we were both kids, and he was with Montgomery County, Maryland Fire Department, Fire Rescue Association, and started as a volunteer, was a career person as well there. He went on to go down to Charleston to serve as the assistant chief down there and helped that fire department recover from their 9 firefighters that died in the line of duty. Very knowledgeable about what is going on in line of duty deaths and what's happening there and the benefits that are included as part of that. So, Chief Tippett, turn it over to you. It's all yours.
Thanks, Chief. I appreciate the introduction and definitely appreciate the opportunity to present to the audience today. It's a real privilege to have an opportunity to talk about this topic. It's a topic I'm very passionate about and one that we've sort of been moving on in looking at the world through a couple of different sets of eyes so that we take into account the firefighter line of duty death. There's an acute impact of when that occurs. And there's also an acute, long-term, midterm, short-term, lifetime experience that takes place. So the idea and really the basis for this program is to sort of give you another perspective, maybe have you think about the line of duty death event in a different way. And if it in any way spurs you to take additional steps to do whatever you can to reduce that preventable line of duty death, because I'll start right off by saying we know that every death can be prevented, but we do know that a good number of the ones that we do experience have options. So just kind of a recap, the foundation was created by Congress in 1992. It's a nonprofit. We are headquartered in Emmitsburg, Maryland. I'm sure most of you are probably aware of that. We had 3 critical missions. And the first and foremost, by congressional mandate, is honor, remember America's fallen, provide the assistance to the families for as long or as short as they need it. And then a new mission was added. The extended mission was added in 2004 to work on some training and education to reduce that preventable line of duty death. So the honorees are laid at or recognized at the National Memorial on the campus of the National Fire Academy. And we are the keepers of the memorial. So Originally, when the memorial was established, the fire service took care of the memorial itself, and then the caretaking of the memorial was transferred over to the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation. The U.S. Fire Administration was the original keeper. We now work in cooperation with them, but it's principally the NFF's responsibility to take care of the memorial and run the National Memorial Service. One of the misconceptions out there is that the memorial service we do every year is the National Fallen Firefighters Foundation Memorial Service. It is not. It is the National Fallen Firefighter Memorial Service. We just happen to be the people that are charged with putting it on. So it is America's tribute to the fallen firefighters that died in the line of duty in previous years. So just some perspective, 5,201 firefighters have given their lives since the memorial was established in 1981 by President Reagan, and then commissioned and built for the 1982 year. So it's a bit of a sobering number when you think about it. We are coming up on a significant anniversary with the memorial's establishment, and the numbers continue to add in a rate that we had thought at first was going to be going in a decline, but are now in the increase. As we're looking through, or we go through the program, you'll see that we have had made a significant impact in traumatic line of duty deaths. Although in the area that I'm from, in central and southern Maryland, we've had 3, actually, when you take the Baltimore City fatalities, we've had 6 firefighter fatalities in the course of about 3 years, all traumatic. And that's been a bit of an anomaly and pretty unsettling. We had people approach us and say, well, my firefighter died prior to the establishment of the memorial. What do we do about them? Their sacrifice was no less important, was just as much of a tragedy as ever. So the Walk of Honor was created by or envisioned by Chief Dennis Compton. If you're familiar with the National Fire Academy, there's a brick walk that surrounds the academy grounds, traveling from one part to another. Originally, it was concrete. It's all been taken up and replaced with memorial bricks. Chief Compton decided that he wanted to recognize and honor and address those emotions of the people that had lost firefighters before. So he created the Walk of Honor. He went out to each state, and each state now has provided funding for the line of duty deaths that occurred prior to the establishment of the National Memorial. And we keep having names added there. I was just at Emmitsburg this past weekend for the EFO symposium, and a firefighter approached me. His dad had died of a presumptive cancer, what we would consider today a presumptive cancer. And his father was able to get a workers' comp claim for his cancer death prior to 1981. The date, exact date escapes me, but he was asking, could I get my dad added as a line of duty death? So we have people approaching us all the time. I know in my experience in Charleston, the Charleston 9 garnered a significant amount of attention, obviously, for the breadth and depth of that tragedy. But there were 13 or 14 other firefighters that had died prior to that. And we also had another element of fire service delivery in Charleston. In the antebellum days, the city had ward engines that were staffed by enslaved Africans and some freed blacks. And that entire part of the fire service had its own history of that line of duty deaths that were just now being unearthed. So 8,312 additional firefighters have given their lives in the service of their communities. Those names on the Walk of Honor date back to the early 1800s, to as early as the fire departments had started. So let's talk about, well, first we'll talk about the cost. This is going to be beyond the dollars and cents, but we'll talk about the dollars and cents, because in a lot of cases people think that there's a complete encapsulation of somebody after they die in the line of duty and the family is certainly well taken care of financially, but that doesn't come close to what happens emotionally. So we see those costs in two ways. We see the direct costs that are the result of the actual death, and then we also have indirect costs that come into play, and we'll spend a little bit more time talking about those after we go through the numbers here. So we're going to create a character. We're going to create an amalgam of firefighters. For the rest of the presentation, it's Firefighter William Edwards. This is not a real person. If there's any Firefighter William Edwards out there today, we just picked the name out of the air. So just kind of give you a sense of where he is. Firefighter William Edwards was a 15-year veteran. That was kind of like the average. At the age of his death, he was 36 years old. His projected life expectancy in America today was 84 years old because he was in good health. He had been married for 10 years. He had 2 children. He owned a home. He was just your all-American, average American firefighter out there. Vehicle owner, had his own car. In addition, he's a military vet. And as many firefighters do, giving back to their community, he's also involved in 3 different arenas. Sort of paint the picture of who Firefighter William Edwards, our average American firefighter for the presentation here. In addition, he probably worked a second job, or if he was a volunteer firefighter, he may have owned his own business, or he could have been involved in some other enterprises that provided income for his family. But this is our character for where we're going to go from here. So let's take a little bit of a walk back through history and see about impact.
But where are the houses?
We went here to build them. Your brother, Harry Bailey, broke through the ice and was drowned at the age of 9.
That's a lie. Harry Bailey went to war. He got the Congressional Medal of Honor. He saved the lives of every man on that transport.
Every man on that transport died. Harry wasn't there to save them because you weren't there to save Harry. You see, George, you really had a wonderful life. Don't you see what a mistake it would be to throw it away?
Clarence,
Yes, George?
where's Mary?
Oh, well, I can't...
I don't know how you know these things, but tell me, where is she? If you know where she is, tell me where my wife is.
I'm not supposed to tell.
Please, Clarence, tell me where she is.
You're not going to like it, George.
Where is she?
She's an old maid. She never married.
Where's Mary? Where is she? Where is she?
She's just about to close up the library! Oh, there must be some easier way for me to get my wings.
So to take a walk back in time, Frank Capra's timeless movie about It's a Wonderful Life, story of a man that thinks his life is not all that great, but then he is visited by an angel and sort of lays out the case for what would have happened if he hadn't been there. And that kind of frames for where we're going to go with the rest of the presentation. A lot of times we don't quite engage in consequence projection. So we think about the event or responding to an emergency or reacting to a situation, and we haven't quite thought about what happens beyond that point. And that can kind of lead us into a trap of not being able to get out of a situation or being exposed to some sort of a risk or other sort of threat to our existence that we just didn't quite think through. So two kind of places that the impact of the death happens. There are tangibles and intangibles. There's operational impacts. The economic impact is kind of astronomical, and we're going to talk about that in just a second, because when you start laying out the dollars and cents of a line of duty death, that can be kind of overpowering. But then you take that into the intangibles that are out there. What happens to society when we're gone? What happens over the course of a lifetime that takes place? It sort of becomes the way that we want to start to approach firefighters when we discuss with them the whole concept of risk and how it is they approach their tasks. So simple task: you go out to the grocery store with the family, and the next thing you know, you're not there. So the family has to continue to eat. They continue to have to grocery shop, but those small moments in life, and if you think back over the course of your own existence, if you traveled to the grocery store with your parents, like I can remember doing, there were some memorable moments there. And then, of course, when I went grocery shopping with my kids as they were growing up, some of those little moments in history that they don't seem to have a major impact in your world, but they become the memories of that are imprinted on people's brains for a lifetime. And when the firefighter is extracted from that because of his line of duty death, what happens to the family? Are they able to continue at the quality of life and with the quality of food that they wanted to, that they were enjoying prior to the death? And then the meals that the firefighter is no longer there for. That's one of the intangibles. That's one of the impacts that happens. There's no more conversation at the table, no more walking down the aisles, making preferences. The next thing that happens is that social engagement. Firefighters love to be involved in things. Many of you are probably out there coaching sports, participating in a variety of different elements in your community. And then we are out of the picture. So who is going to help mold the minds of those young folks there in that video or in that picture if that firefighter's not there? If that firefighter is extracted from there, or if that firefighter had been engaged and then was taken out, what is the long-term impact on those three individuals there that looked up to that firefighter for guidance, that thought that firefighter was the world to them, that meant a lot to the families and the other parents that firefighter was giving of their time? And we sort of start to find that there's more than dollars here involved. There's actual impact on people's lives that are changed forever. In addition, we tend to be a fairly handy group with our ability to do things, pull people together, work on large projects. Who is the leader of the Habitat for Humanity? And in a lot of our experience, what happens to some of these elements, some of these enterprises, is the firefighter is such a significant force that the group disintegrates. It falls apart. It can't go on. And then the ripple effect of that, with that Habitat for Humanity group, for instance, here, is that they start to just kind of wander apart, drift apart, and then the Habitat for Humanity group is now forced to find somebody else to fit that bill. It moves them off of their schedule of getting things done and serving their community. And again, we have gone many steps beyond the actual death of the firefighter at the scene. It just continues. We mentioned that our firefighter was a veteran. If he's no longer there, I mean, at 18 years, he was 2 years away from retirement, and now he's not there to participate in this exercise here to serve our country. That's one less individual there that can devote time and energy and effort, encouraging the other members of the team, leading the other members of the team, supporting the leaders of that team. And again, that ripple just gets wider and wider and wider. Something as simple as going out and buying a car. All of a sudden, you're not there. The income may arrive. We'll look at the dollar impacts of death there in the long run. But when you're not there, your spouse is left to go buy that vehicle by themselves, or they may have to take somebody else with them. And we become so dependent on each other that we can't envision our lives without the people that we love. So something as simple and as seemingly innocuous as buying a car becomes a whole new environment. We think about what happens, early on in our careers. We start out in a starter home, or we lived in an apartment and we hope we buy a home. The firefighter dies in a line of duty, and the next thing you know, they're not there. And maybe they've already made the purchase of the house. I know that we did a podcast with a firefighter from FDNY that was killed in 1970. His wife and two young daughters had just moved into their first home out on Long Island. They didn't even have a phone installed in their home yet. And when the chaplain and the chief officer came out to inform the widow that the firefighter had been killed, she had to go next door to get someone to get a telephone to call her parents to come down. It's heartrending to hear stories like that. And she was really at a loss. It took, I think what she mentioned, well over an hour or more for her parents to get out from Brooklyn to Long Island to visit with her. So she was left alone. The fire department paid their respects and then had kind of left. So here she is, a young widow with 2 preschool age children, and she's left in what was supposed to be the beginning of their life. And now it turned out to be a complete difference. Those significant family moments. If you're not there, who's going to walk your daughter down the aisle? Who's going to take your son as as being the best man at the wedding? Or who's going to be the person that provides the funding to make that happen, to make that bride's dream a reality? When we're not there, we're not there. Other people step in, but it's not the same. And that's kind of the point about the indirect impact of what happens when there's a line of duty death. Take it to retirement. You've invested in your community for a long time, and your community says, thanks for your service. You're welcome to go have a good time and live a good life, but you're not there to walk that little grandchild down that walkway there. So another indirect impact. And now we're talking with, originally Firefighter Edwards was a young man with 2 young children. An entire generation goes by and life continues on. He's not there to enjoy this moment. If any of you are out there, grandparents, you know the joy of being able to spend some time with those little people that are much more fun than your kids. So we want to be thinking about these indirect impacts. The line of duty death isn't over at the funeral. It's not over a year after the funeral. In many cases, it's not over 50 years after the funeral. The podcast I was talking to you about, red light, green light, if you're interested in looking it up on our website, the firefighter was struck by a train in 1970. And here we are all these decades later, and his widow still missed him. And he missed his daughters growing up, getting married, having children. He never saw any of that future. And then we'll take it right to the incident scene. If you're not there, then you're not there. Who's going to rescue this child if you're not there? The way lives align and things line up. If you're not there to serve your department or your community, what's going to happen for that child? That child may have had a chance if you were there, in the same way George Bailey wasn't there to rescue his brother. There's not somebody to rescue that child. We talk about the camaraderie of the fire service. Now we're excluded from that as well. The person on the left could have been somebody that the firefighter on the right was mentoring along the way, and then they're out of the picture. If any of you out there have experienced a line of duty death personally, my heart goes out to you. You know how much it hurts. You know the impact of what happens here. You know how your lives get knocked off of the tracks, and how difficult it is to get back on and make something work the way it was originally. With that firefighter missing from the command team there, who's to say that fire ground doesn't go bad? Because there isn't the wisdom, the experience, and the opportunity there. Not to mention the fact that if Firefighter Edwards is killed, he never got a chance to be Chief Edwards. So the National Safety Council, we've talked a lot about the emotional impact and the long-term aspect on society. Let's talk about some of the dollars and cents. The National Safety Council puts a worker death at about $1.2 million. That figure is a little bit dated now. It's probably gone up quite a bit, but the financial impact, the immediate financial impact of a worker death is about $1.2 million. So we're looking at some insurance actuaries. Depending on where you live, it varies from place to place. The cost, the immediate cost of a death, the death itself, ranges from $18,000 to $42,000. We're talking about now in times where budgets are tight, where we still have to maintain service. We still have to talk about the immediate needs of the family, making the car payment, making sure there's enough gas in the car, making sure the kids still have the equipment they need to play their sports, donations to the church or other charities that are out there. All of those types of dollar figures come into this range here. So for Firefighter Edwards, we take a look at some of the things, a lifetime of fiscal impact. So we, with the Victims Compensation Fund in New York, we've seen a new number arrive at the cost of a death. The compensation for the 9/11 firefighters, if the Victim Compensation Fund, is $3.2 million. You can ask anybody that's received that kind of funding, and they'll say, for 10 times more than that, I'd want my loved one back. But in just the fiscal impact of what happens over the lifetime of a death in the workforce, we're looking at an average price of a funeral, projection of purchasing maybe 3 to 5 vehicles over a lifetime, an average American mortgage, and then other spending that goes into groceries, vacations, any of the other things that are out there, Amazon ordering, whatever you want to talk about. The lifetime fiscal impact of a worker death, firefighter worker death, is at $5.3 million. We're talking about a number that's really hard to get your head wrapped around. And that's the dollars and cents, the hard figure there. So we now have looked at the emotional impact, the community impact, the fiscal and financial impact. And I hope I've kind of set the stage for you to sort of come to an agreement that we need to work as hard as we can to reduce every preventable line of duty death. As I said at the opening, but we will never eliminate death in the workplace. It's not just about firefighting, but death in the workplace and firefighting. We've done a really, I would say, decent job of reducing traumatic deaths, but now there's a trend upward over the last couple of years that we don't really have a good handle on exactly right now. In that vein, the NFF's efforts towards prevention have settled primarily on appealing to rational thought when it comes to risk, recognizing that we can't eliminate risk from the job, but doing everything we can to keep that risk in a place where we will be able to function effectively and efficiently, fulfilling our mission, and then be able to get home to our crewmates, but also our loved ones, that baseball team, the Habitat for Humanity, show up for the daughter's wedding, be the best man at the son's wedding, see the grandchildren be born, and have them experience the joy of what a grandparent, the unique love a grandparent can provide. So on the foundation side, we've also started to concentrate. We have our legacy programs, the After Action Review and LEGH. We've also started to get into the critical decision-making component through a new program called Attributes of Leading Relatively, and a variety of different deliveries we're doing now that focus on critical decision-making. How do we get firefighters to be more intentional versus just being aggressive? We're looking for them to be more thoughtful about what they're doing. We're looking across the Atlantic Ocean at the British Fire Service. They've done remarkable work over the last 2 decades on looking at how thought impacts risk. And we're in the process of developing a new module for our Fire Hero Learning Network on critical decision-making for firefighters. So a couple of presentations we're working on now that make a difference there. We think we're making a difference. We're drilling down to orienting. So we're trying to get firefighters to be more thoughtful in their approach so that they are less impulsive and more intentional with the way they approach the risk of the job. And in another vein, instead of just talking about managing risk, we're talking about dominating risk. And there's a whole different mindset about what that means. But in essence, we borrowed it from the military about, if you want to defeat an enemy, you have to orient to the situation faster than the enemy does. and then you have to beat them with overwhelming force. Too often in our job, we've taken our time to say, well, I'm just going to I'm going to give it the maximum effort, and I have no sense of victory. And that has translated to what you could really consider to be a corruption of concept, and has resulted in some firefighter fatalities. One person engine shows up, you attempt to do the work of 4 or 5 people. We really put those people, our firefighters, in a bad situation by doing that. So we have our family programs. We talked about fire service programs. In the event that the fatality does occur, our family programs group will offer grief support, financial planning, scholarships, everything that we can do to help offset that loss of income and drop, or the missing element of having that firefighter not there. On the fire service side, our Taking Care of Our Own program teaches fire departments how to be prepared to the best of their ability to handle a line of duty death, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And if you approach it from that perspective of the when, then you'll be better prepared to respond to the immediacy of the death and then start that long-term process. We also have some local assistance state teams that help departments, and we also have started in the last couple of years recognizing the impact of the death on the commanders, the incident commander and the fire chief, and the company officer, if it's a lower ranking firefighter, support groups that will reach out to those members and help them deal with the impact of that loss. Just a recap of some of those benefits out there to offset the lost income. The public safety officer benefit is now up to $437,500. And there's a fiscal benefit, education benefit there of $1,488 to help the family members get back on their feet. But there's a caveat there. The firefighter is not there to celebrate the victories in those straight A's of being there to support that spouse as that spouse is working on getting a second career or a new career. Just the whole prospect of the way the apple cart is upset when that firefighter death occurs cannot be replaced with money by any stretch of the imagination. The money's helpful, but it doesn't ease the burden of the grief or all of the things that are not. As one family member told us one time, life after the death of their firefighter was a series of firsts. It was the first Christmas without him, the first birthday without him, the first anniversary without him, the first vacation without him. It was a difficult stretch to get to what is just nominally called back to normal. There isn't a normal, and even a new normal doesn't even fit the bill there. The other benefits that are out there, if you visit the website for the MFFF, you'll find the other programs that are available from family programs. And closing thoughts here for us to take into account, the firefighter line of duty death isn't something that we should be working to prevent because it's a noble task. It's more about the fact that it's an impact, as I mentioned earlier, acutely at the time of the death, short-term and immediate aftermath, and then mid-range and long-term as life continues. Because even though the firefighter's life ended on a particular day and time, the rest of the people that are impacted by him continue to go on, him or her continue to go on, and they are forever affected by the way their lives traject versus if that firefighter hadn't been there. We know that operations are improved after a firefighter dies in the line of duty. But what a price to pay! My experience in Charleston was very impressionable on me. That all the changes that occurred in that fire department were the result of 9 human beings giving their life. And though that was noble, and I think the department did a phenomenal effort, I think on any given day they would have wanted to go back to June 18th. 2007 at 1830 hours instead of 1900 hours. Firefighter death, generational influence, it's a lifetime. And then reducing the preventable line of duty death is something that we all need to impact significantly. So that's about everything that I have for the afternoon. If there's any questions out there in the chat or anything anybody else would like to talk to or follow up with for anything I presented, contact information is there. And I'm happy to see Chief Buckman is back in the picture.
Thank you. Wow, John, I would tell you, you used some new words here that I'm looking in the chat and question and answer section. But, you talked early on about consequence projection. Could you maybe expand upon that just a little bit?
Sure. So I'll give you a real life example. Just recently, a young firefighter driver had made an arrangement to do a drill with another fire department, and he had a couple of young crew members with him, and then a couple of cadets, and they took the truck over to the neighboring department to do the drill, and the truck was in service, but the young firefighters and the cadets obviously couldn't make up staffing for the vehicle. So in speaking to people that are involved in that, the firefighter didn't think about what would have happened if that truck had gotten a call. What if that crew had been properly prepared? In their own minds, they believed that they were capable, but when you start drilling down into how would you handle a mayday? What would you do under this circumstance? What would you do under that circumstance? The magnitude of the responsibility of the right front seat, of the responsibility for other people, just had not been well thought out. So when we talk about that consequence, it's in the immediacy of the moment. Well, I don't know what the big deal is. Nothing happened. Well, the failing to project what those outcomes could be. Now, could they have gone somewhere and done something really incredibly well? Likelihood, but then it's an accidental success versus intentional. So when we talk about that consequence projection, what's gonna happen in the next moment, and that goes back to that orienting concept and where we're trying to get people to think about. In a game of chess, you're thinking about one or two moves ahead, not just your next immediate move.
Great, thank you. You just mentioned the word intentional.
Mhm.
You also made that statement during your presentation about becoming intentional versus aggressive. And I think that when both of us look around at our time in the fire services, like we want firefighters to be aggressive, but we want you to be smart being aggressive and intentionally take action. Don't just automatically take action. So you got anything else on intentional versus aggressive?
Yeah, and this is in conversations with firefighters, especially over this concept of aggressiveness. The mantra of the American Fire Service is aggressive interior attack fire service. It's like it's all one word. And the analogy there is on some of our presentations, we found a piece of video of a big game hunt, and this lion charges out of the grass, and he's shot by the hunter, and the lion comes to rest at the hunter's feet, actually kind of knocks him down. So when you start to take that apart, there's two things that are happening there. There's the lion, by all accounts, is very aggressive. The hunter is very intentional. In the end, the lion, in its mind, thought it was probably going to take care of this threat, but in the end, it was the hunter's intentional action that changed the dynamics of that situation. So we ask people, would you rather be the lion or would you rather be the hunter? In other discussion points, it's, do you just want to go to one fire, or do you want to go to a lot of fires? Or pick your discipline, pick your emergency. If you go to a fire and you are overly aggressive and you suffer a career-ending injury, then your game is over. And we've seen through the course of our time, we've seen firefighters lost in buildings, and the building is swept off the foundation and rebuilt, and the firefighter is still dead. So did that aggressive action result in a positive outcome? So we're talking about, we're trying to sort of shift the dialogue from, when you talk about being aggressive, you're not always in a clear thinking space like the lion. But if you are intentional, every action has a purpose and every purpose has an action.
Great, thank you. You mentioned right front seat. I saw your presentation on right front seat. I still want to have, I am going to have you at Symposium in the Sun here in November to do that, because you're talking, these two things are just that. It's that right front seat, consequence projection and intentional versus aggressive. And we got to get over this attitude. Well, nothing happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called lucky. Remember Clint Eastwood when he shot that guy with his 357 and he asked the guy, I don't remember how many bullets I used. Whether it was 5 or 6. And he goes, so punk, do you feel lucky?
Yeah.
We got to quit feeling lucky. The fire service has been lucky for way too long, and sometimes it does pay off. My last things, and you said this repeatedly, you're not there anymore. Think about that hole that we leave when we're not there. And that is a big part of what the NFFF is trying to do, is to try to make that process for the survivors a little better, because we all know there's a hole there. You're not there anymore. You're going to miss the daughters walk down the aisle. You're going to miss the what the kids doing things, baseball, sports, things like that. We don't want that. The NFFF doesn't want that. So when you looked at all the prevention stuff that John had up on the screen, all the different programs, there are a couple that are in person, but many of them are online. And for those chiefs in here or training officers on this program, look at this stuff. Do some research of what their Fire Hero Learning Network has and figure out how you can use this stuff as part of your officer development material. Because we want officers to make the right decision for the right reason at the right time. So I don't know if there's anything else you want to say about prevention, but that to me, we both know each other pretty well. That's a big part of what we're about.
Yeah, and I've seen. I have some friends that worked in Baltimore City Fire Department too after their line of duty deaths, and they're not the same. It is a life altering event. As one of them said to me, that I'll never go to another fire with my friend, and that it just never ends. The disconnect of life never ends after the firefighter dies, and especially if it's been in an incident that could be deemed preventable, because then you start to wonder, what was it worth? What was it worth? Anything? And I say that when you start to go across the spectrum, people will say there's no amount of money. I'd even give my own life to have one more minute with my husband, my wife, my colleague, my son, whoever.
Yeah, it is. When I was the state fire academy director in Indiana, I think I shouldn't say buried, but as part of my job, it was to help take care of line duty deaths. And I think we had like 8 of them and had several active duty deaths. And we had cancer right there at the end. And every one of them even though I may not have known the people, every one of them had an impact on me. And I have had a couple firefighters on my fire department who died active duty, not line of duty. And there's a big hole. One of them I grew up with. The other one, I raised him. His mom said I kept him out of juvenile detention. He died at 51 years of age from a medical condition. And I think about him daily. And we weren't living together. We weren't really family. And so as those who are on here, think about the consequences of our actions and how it's going to impact us emotionally, not just emotionally, not just financially.
Right.
And so, John, I will let you make any closing kind of comments you want to make, and then we'll wrap this thing up.
I just want to say thank you very much for the opportunity. Certainly hope you found the presentation a little bit thought-provoking. We at the NFFF, we're committed to try to do everything we can to, as our mission says, take care of the families and then reduce every preventable line of duty death that we can. I wish everyone out there the best of luck, and take care. Stay oriented.
John, thank you very much. Yes, you did cover what I had in mind when I saw that, your presentation. I didn't want to mention this, but now I will. That you talked about the total cost of of a firefighter dying was like $5.2 million, and it's like, wow, we have no idea the fiscal impact as well. But yes, the topic was good. It is thought provoking. It is not a topic we like to talk about. Safety is one of those things like, oh, we don't need to be safety. Well, yeah, we do need to be safety. So, but yeah, John, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let me see. There's a couple other slides here. You're going to get a link for the recording, and hopefully you'll share that with your people. And then we certainly fill out the survey. That's what gets you your certificate. You get a certificate of attendance. So with that, John Tippett, I want to thank you for this, for the attendees that participated today, and for those that might watch this on video. Thank you very much for caring about the fire service and your brothers and sisters enough to take this program and see how you can make a difference in the lives of our brothers and sisters firefighters. God bless each and every one of you. Thank you. Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.